Hi guys, today I'm going to be taking you through my progress as a producer over the last 6 or so years. So we might as well start from the back 6 years ago when I was first gifted a music production program from my parents called Cubase. And so soon after that I made my first ever beat called Snip Snap. Now for these older beats, I don't actually have the original files, so the closest thing is this old SoundCloud account called Lethal Acid, which is a bit of a weird name for a 12-year-old to be calling their account. Fun fact about this beat is that I actually ended up using it for a school project, so I had to show it to my whole class. They probably just thought, why is he showing us this? Looking back, it's not the worst effort for a first ever beat, but it's still kinda empty. If you want to check out the whole thing, the Lethal Acid SoundCloud account is still up for the world to see. The next track I ever made was called Spook Step, and I guess it was meant to be a spooky dubstep inspired track, and yeah, it turned out bad. Again, if you want to check this one out, it's still up on the Lethal Acid account to this day. After this, I went through a phase of trying to make summer EDM bangers. There's a lot of slop here, so I'm not going to show you every track, but here are some of the notable ones. Unfortunately, a lot of these tracks ended up being pretty poorly mixed, and a lot of them had pretty boring progressions. So after this, I guess I decided I wanted to make some more dancey house tracks. So in comes Elemental House. This track definitely felt like an improvement soundscape-wise compared to the previous ones, and I think it was a step in the right direction. Oh, this next one. I don't even want the world to hear this, but here we go. So for this one I decided it would be a good idea to record my own vocals for a trap song, and pretty much it just turned out being pretty cringe. Okay, that's enough of that one. Next up we have a beat that was inspired by Marshmallow. It's also a little bit cringe. Now we have a track called Bass Flow, and this one also has my vocals in it, but this time they're pitched down to sound more Sigma, I guess, and less like a 13-year-old. This one's also very hard to listen to. Yeah, that drop sucks. Pretty much after this track I took a big break from producing. The only track I released in between was this Coffin Dance remix. And yeah, after being away from producing for about 3 years, I re-downloaded Cubase and basically started fresh. From a few months of creating tracks, I eventually put out my first album, Hourglass. In this album I definitely kept the EDM sound that I was using before, but put a lot more effort into how these songs felt and were structured. I even made some more ambient tracks to fill out the spaces. If you want to check this album out, I'll leave a link in the description. It's also now on Spotify if you want to listen there. Here are some of the best tracks. And yes, that is AI album art. I am still ashamed about it. Looking back on Hourglass, I think it definitely wasn't the most exciting album ever. I mean, EDM has been done to death at this point, but it massively helped me become a better producer, especially with the synthesizer, and I thank it for that. The next project I worked on was a little EP called Rooftop, and this was definitely a more dance-centric album for sure. The most notable song on this album is probably the closer, Pressure Chamber, and my friends still make fun of me for how loud the 808s are on this song. But in hindsight, leaning to the more experimental production definitely taught me a lot about how to mix my tracks, so maybe it was a good thing. If you want to check out the rest of the EP, I'll leave a link in the description. It's also on Spotify. Also, shout out to my sister for the album art. After Rooftop, I wanted to push myself to make something more authentic, and what came from this was my next album, Strangeland. On this album I aimed to use more instrumentation, with almost all of the songs using live drum sounds, and some of them using strings, horns, pianos, etc. On paper this sounded great, but the execution of it ended up coming across a little bit tacky in places, with none of the instruments actually being real and all just MIDI. I'm still really proud of the progressions of most of these tracks though, and if you want to give it a full listen, I'll leave a Spotify link down below. Then came my latest album and probably my best overall work, Synthbops, which is appropriately named. I understand not everyone is going to like the video game adjacent synthy aesthetics of this album, but I really pushed myself to make a musically exciting and complete feeling project. If you are going to listen to this one, I recommend listening to the whole thing front to back, because that's really what's intended for the album. So I'm not going to play any individual tracks now. But if you do want to listen to the whole thing, then I'll leave a link in the description. Now we've come to probably the biggest switch up in this music production journey, and that would be just the ability for me to record guitar and bass after purchasing a preamp. This basically meant that I entered a rock era, and every track that I've made since this era has pretty much been an attempt at some kind of rock. This track you're hearing now is called A Bit Crushed, and it's probably a fan favourite track that I've ever made. Not that there are many fans. Also, shout out to my friend Fred, who gifted me his pair of mixing headphones. This helped me massively because I quickly found out that rock tracks are a lot harder to mix than electronic ones. If you want to check out this whole track, I'll leave a link in the description. The next track I worked on was called Polychromatic, and this time I went for a more indie vibe, overlaying a lot of guitars. But in hindsight, I think the mix ended up being a bit messy on this one. I'm also not the best at guitar or bass still, so if anything sounds slightly off, it's probably me just being too lazy to do another take. After Polychromatic, I guess I tried to make something more metal, and what came out was this track, Delirium Chaser. I'm still quite proud of the tone I managed to get on my shitty little Yamaha Pacifica guitar, even if the end of this track is a bit rushed. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to listen to the rest of it. Now we've come to some of the most recent tracks that I've made, and these are probably some of the best. Starting off, we have a track called Fractured Limbo, and this might be the best thing I've ever made. It's meant to be a big, multi-phase psychedelic track that starts out chaotic and transforms into something, well, less chaotic. And I pretty much used all of my remaining brain power to try and make this work. Comparing this and my first few tracks and the completely different direction that I've gone in over time is quite funny to look back on. And if you do want to check out this track, I'll leave a link in the description. Now we have a track called Spaced, and with this one I pretty much put all the emphasis on the ending. So I think I'm just going to let the whole ending section of this song play out. And there we are. We have pretty much reached the present day of my music production journey. Obviously I'm still not the best and there's plenty of room to improve, but hopefully you can see the way I've developed and changed my sound over the last 6 years. Thank you for watching if you somehow made it this far. I'll leave a link in the description to all of the tracks I've played today, apart from the Coffin Dance remix. And yeah, au revoir.